Hello?
Welcome.
This is the two cities.
Oh, I'm so excited.
Welcome back to our March marathon, in which we focus on women, the strong, supernatural, peculiar, and badass. Most know her from her cinematic representation via the stunning Vera Farmiga, but Lorraine Warren is so much more than the woman from The Conjuring. Lorraine Warren is a world-renowned paranormal investigator. Born January 31st, 1947, Lorraine Rita Moran says since she was 7 or 8, she had been seeing lights and auras around people. A devout Catholic, she was afraid to tell her parents for the fear that they would think that she was crazy. She spent years praying about it because she, quote, didn't want to be different. She once told a teacher that she had seen lights brighter than Mother Superior's in reference to her aura, and she was told to go to the chapel and pray about it. She kept her gifts private. Even when she met her eventual husband, Ed Warren, at 16, she didn't tell him. It wasn't until later that Ed told her, quote, "You're different." Ed, a self-taught demonologist, developed an interest in the supernatural after growing up in a house that was haunted. He and Lorraine would combine their abilities to become a world-famous paranormal investigative team, a career that together lasted until Ed's death in 2006 and has continued for her until now, a total of over 65 years. Lorraine is a clairvoyant and a light trance medium. This means that she has the ability of clear sight, being able to gather information about an object, person, or location through extrasensory perception, as well as communicate with the dead. In 1952, the Warrens founded the New England Society for Psychic Research, which remains the oldest ghost hunting organization in New England. According to the Warrens, the NESPR uses a variety of individuals, including medical doctors, researchers, police officers, nurses, college students, and members of the clergy, in its investigations. Together, the Warrens have authored numerous books about the paranormal and their investigations. They claim to have investigated over 10,000 cases during the time they worked together, including some of the most prominent cases of haunting in the history, including the Amityville haunting. Most people know the Warrens through the cinematic adaptations of some of their most famous cases. Annabelle is one such case. According to the Warrens, in 1970, 2 roommates claimed their Raggedy Ann doll was possessed by the spirit of a young girl named Annabelle Higgins.
Please, from the start.
It started out small, like a hand or a leg was in a different position, then its head was looking up instead of down, and then one day it was in a completely different room. It was moving around by itself.
Ever think that maybe somebody had a key to your apartment and was just playing a trick on you?
That's exactly what we thought, but never once did we find any sign or evidence of intrusion.
And this all led you to believe that the doll was possessed?
Yes. Camilla got in touch with a medium. We learned from her that a 7-year-old girl named Annabelle Higgins had died in this apartment. She was lonely and took a liking to my doll. All she wanted was to be friends.
The Warrens took the doll, believing it was actually being manipulated by a non-human presence, making it a demon of sorts. It remains in the Warrens' occult museum. Many naysayers have tried to dispel the Warrens' accounts of the occurrence, though Lorraine warned, quote, "Looks are deceiving. It's not what the doll looks like that makes it scary. It's what has been infused within the doll. Evil." The Conjuring also covers an investigation conducted by the Warrens. In 1971, the Warrens worked in Harrisville, Rhode Island, at the home of the Perrin family. Ed and Lorraine found the home to be haunted by a witch who lived there in the early 19th century. According to Lorraine, Bathsheba Sherman cursed the land so that whoever lived there died. Unlike the film, the home was pretty average looking. The 10-bedroom house was an attempt by the parents to lead a more quiet life in the country with their 5 daughters. The daughters, Andrea, Nancy, Christine, Cindy, and April, were the focus of 2 friendly spirits. They actually grew attached to those 2 spirits. One of these spirits is reported to be a ghost by the name of Mrs. Arnold, who would tuck the girls in each night and kiss them on the forehead. The other was Johnny Arnold, who is said to have hung himself in the attic. He was supposed to have played with the girls, and occasionally liked to watch them as they played outside. Another benevolent spirit was known as the sweeping ghost that sounded like a broom. When they heard the sound, they would find the broom against the wall with a neat pile of dirt next to it. Now, I don't know about you, but I'd love to have a ghost that cleaned my house. But it wasn't those ghosts that were of concern. The smell of rotting flesh would often waft into the home around 5:15 in the morning. Smell was accompanied by the spirit that would lift the family's beds and toss whoever was in them. This was the point at which the parents began to encounter what they claimed was a demonic force. The girls' hair and limbs would get pulled, doors would bang, and they would hear disembodied cries regularly. One night, the family even heard a voice that told them that 7 dead soldiers were buried in the walls of the home. But even that entity was calm compared to the spirit of a male that Andrea still refuses to speak of. The only thing she has said is, quote, "Let's just say there was a very bad male spirit in the home." But it was the curse by former resident Bathsheba that was the focus of the film, is much of Andrea's autobiography, and was identified by Lorraine. Bathsheba was born in Rhode Island in 1812. She married Judson Sherman, and they had 4 children, 3 of whom died when they were very young. Their son, Herbert, outlived both of his parents, who died in the 1880s. He passed in 1903. But during Bathsheba's life, there was only one incident in the home. Bathsheba was caring for an infant who died, which led to her neighbors accusing her of being a witch, a common occurrence, as explained in our episode on Salem. Many believe that this was untrue. She was simply the victim of jealousy, as she was beautiful and had a husband that took care of her and her young son. But rumors spread. The whole community soon believed she was a sadist. It is said when she died, she turned to stone, a consequence for Satan having granted her such beauty. Andrea Perrin suggested that the accusation against Bathsheba pained her, so that by the time she died, she was filled with a bitterness and rage. She had been tormented for so long that she used her afterlife to continue her cries and affect those in her home. The parents described Bathsheba as having moved toys and having made things disappear. She, in particular, hated the mother, Carolyn. She was apparently obsessed with Roger, the father, and wanted Carolyn gone. Roger only ever encountered light-fingered caresses and sensual advances, unlike Carolyn, who reported being physically hurt and emotionally drained as her energy was consumed while Bathsheba wanted to possess her body. The parents called the Warrens to utilize Lorraine's gifts. Lorraine immediately sensed a dark spirit, Bathsheba, and pointed to a small, circular incision on the back of Carolyn's leg, revealing that it was from Bathsheba. Lorraine connected this to the circular wound that had been drilled into the skull of the child who died under Bathsheba's care. As such, Bathsheba was denounced as a witch, and the Warrens declared the house infested with supernatural entities who were attacking the family.
Bathsheba! By the power of God, I condemn you back to hell!
Because the parents were not religious, they could not conduct an exorcism. They tried a seance in the basement with Carolyn, which backfired. Even today, Lorraine is traumatized by the home, explaining that, quote, "The things that went on there were just so incredibly frightening. It still affects me to talk about it today." Though the Amityville Horror is most likely the most famous of the Warrens' cases. The historical events at the home occurred on November 13th, 1974, when Ronald DeFeo Jr. shot and killed 6 members of his family. He was convicted of second-degree murder in November of 1975, and New York couple George and Kathy Lutz purchased the home in December of 1975. They claimed the house was haunted by a violent demonic presence. It eventually drove the family from the home. Many have criticized the occurrences as a hoax, but Lorraine remains steadfast in her defense of the haunting. Now, I wanted to end with a profound story about how wonderful and intensely talented Lorraine is. But no matter how much I tried, it was almost impossible to find much on Lorraine without mention of Ed. Some people have claimed to have defamed the Warrens. Disbelievers call their experiences hoaxes. They say that they're frauds. But we must recognize that Lorraine remains a woman who is doubted and accused. She refused to acknowledge her gifts because she feared being different. Like Bathsheba, she didn't want to be identified as an outcast, a target of hate and aggression. People fear what they don't understand. They rebel against those who challenge the norm. Lorraine has worked tirelessly for years to help those who are in need, fighting against the darkness and working towards the light. Thanks for tuning in to our March Marathon dedicated to National Women's Month. We have more to come, some creepy, some strange, but all of these women are for sure badass. And one last thing, we love hearing from you. Emails and comments are awesome, but ratings and reviews are also really important. So subscribe, rate, review, and keep tuning in for more tales from Two Cities.